If you're a Browns fan trying to follow the quarterback chessboard right now, welcome to the most dramatic three-act arc of the offseason before it's even over. Cleveland arrived in 2025 with a crowded room and a thin margin for patience. Joe Flacco holding the starter's clipboard, Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders learning live on the job, and Deshaun Watson sidelined. That setup always smelled like a stopgap first, long-term solution later plan. And now the gossip mills are projecting the Browns into next year's draft lottery, possibly holding the number one pick and a date with Fernando Mendoza, the suddenly hyped Indiana transfer. That scenario would reshuffle every timeline in Berea, from roster construction to the futures of Gabriel and Sanders. Let's be blunt. This is a classic NFL dilemma of time horizon versus immediacy. The Browns prioritized winning now by bringing in Flacco, a veteran who minimizes short-term risk, and keeping a pair of rookies who can be developed without the pressure cooker of immediate expectation. That's a defensible move when your offensive line is patchy or your supporting cast is in flux. But the league punishes ambiguity at quarterback, and ownership's tolerance for waiting is finite. If the Browns do indeed find themselves in position to draft at the very top in 2026, the front office has to balance three competing obligations. One, win as many games as possible this season. Two, allow meaningful development time for Gabriel and Sanders. And three, consider the strategic value of taking a potentially elite prospect like Mendoza if he's truly a generational difference maker. What Mendoza represents for Cleveland is a funnel of certainty. College performances create a narrative and a frenzy, but NFL teams draft off projection and traits. If Mendoza remains the Heisman frontrunner and continues to march through opponents with the efficiency and decision-making suggested by 17 straight completions and gaudy numbers, his stock will be syrup thick. For a Browns organization that has cycled through quarterbacks without finding a long-term anchor since Baker Mayfield, a consensus top prospect with Heisman momentum is an intoxicating possibility. Teams hate to pass on clear, high-ceiling talent when it's handed to them at number one. That's not just about the player, it's about the optics of finally ending a QB carousel. But the human cost must be acknowledged. Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders didn't sign up merely to be placeholder names on depth charts. Gabriel, a transfer with starting experience, likely came to Cleveland expecting a legitimate shot to win the job and grow into it. Sanders, the son of a global sports figure, brings hype and marketability, plus collegiate polish that makes him an intriguing developmental investment. Drafting a Mendoza would throw cold water on both their timelines. Gabriel and Sanders would pivot from compete to start to compete for roster spots and future trade value, and that shift can be career-defining. Coaches and player development teams need to manage that transition skillfully. Otherwise, morale and agent conversations spiral quickly into leaks and friction. There's also an important strategic calculus around the valuation of the number one pick. Drafting a QB at number one is rarely cheap, but often necessary. If the Browns actually believe Mendoza is a transcendent talent, buying him at the top is defensible. Waiting for free agency or a later draft slot risks paying far more in guaranteed money or reaching for lesser talent. Conversely, if Cleveland thinks Gabriel or Sanders can be reliably upgraded into a starter with 2 years of seasoning, the front office can invest draft capital elsewhere, in the trenches, in weapons, or in a trusted veteran, instead of burning the top pick on another quarterback. The problem is, modern NFL history is littered with teams that hesitated and then paid dearly. From a coaching and development standpoint, there are practical paths forward that can make the transition less brutal. One approach is to commit to a clear 2-year development plan. Let Gabriel and Sanders alternate opportunities in controlled packages, expanding reps in low-pressure scenarios and giving the younger players situational experience while preserving the veteran Flacco for game management. That buys time for evaluation and for the offense to stabilize, and it provides film and context should the Browns later decide to trade up or down in the 2026 draft. Another route is more aggressive. If weeks turn to months and neither rookie shows growth or the team falls out of contention, Cleveland could pivot earlier and use a high pick or trade assets to secure a long-term starter. Both roads require decisive front office clarity. indecision is the killer. Cap and roster construction also matter. Drafting a quarterback at the top impacts salary cap trajectories and the ability to address complementary positions. If the Browns grab Mendoza and sign him to a rookie deal and then upgrade other spots, the team can build around a young QB with a lower immediate cap hit. But if they instead chase veteran fixes or give Gabriel or Sanders an expensive extension, flexibility erodes quickly. The arithmetic is simple. The difference between patience and panic is often what allows you to assemble a Super Bowl caliber supporting cast. There's another wrinkle that rarely gets enough attention: market and fan expectations. Drafting a Heisman favorite is a cultural reset. It energizes the fan base, changes national perception, and can even influence free agents. If Mendoza becomes available and the Browns take him, you get two things for free: narrative momentum and an organizational reset that can be worth as much as player talent in the short term. But that honeymoon ends quickly if the rookie struggles and the roster isn't built to protect and simplify his transition. So where should Cleveland land? Pragmatically, the smartest immediate posture is dual-tracked. Keep Flacco as the short-term glue while giving Gabriel and Sanders clearly delineated developmental roles that allow evaluation under live conditions. Simultaneously, the front office should model likely draft scenarios and preserve flexibility, whether that means protecting draft capital, structuring trades, or avoiding long-term financial commitments that box the team in. If Mendoza's arc locks him into the top of the board, the Browns must honestly assess whether the marginal benefit of drafting him exceeds the projected development trajectory of their current youngsters. If the answer is yes, they take him and manage the fallout humanely. If the answer is no, they double down on developing Gabriel and Sanders and invest the pick elsewhere. For Gabriel and Sanders, the mandate is equally clear and unforgiving: show measurable week-to-week progress. In a high-stakes market, patience is a currency players can sell only by demonstrating competence on film, leadership in the locker room, and the mental resiliency to adapt. For the front office, the imperative is to communicate transparently with the players and agents so that if a Mendoza scenario materializes, relationships don't fray into chaos. At the end of the day, this is the cruel beauty of quarterback management in the NFL. Every decision presumes imperfect information. The Browns can choose continuity, development, or bold change. Each path carries risk and reward. What matters most is clarity. Fans will forgive losses if the plan is intelligible and the team looks like it's executing toward a defined goal. The worst outcome is muddled leadership, a fractured locker room, and a revolving door at the most important position in sports. Whoever sits in the Browns' war room needs to make the hard choice early and own it, because in the NFL, hesitation compounds into crisis.